Welcome to the Savvy Working Mom Podcast. This is the place where we share strategies to help you create a life you love. I'm your host, Whitney, a real-life working mom in the tech industry, professional speaker, and coach. I'm going to help you figure out how to work and mom in a way that brings you joy by using simple systems and through interviews with other working moms who are making it work. Remember that with intentional and daily action, you can live your best days now and forever. Neely Neal is a former NFL cheerleader turned tech career woman, wife and mom of 4, ages 8 and 3 that are 5. That's right, she has triplets. She's a passionate advocate for leading a joy-filled life and empowering women through community and positivity. As an agile mindset expert, Neely specializes in empowering leaders and their teams to step into their full potential through her vertical development workshops and events. With a diverse background and a commitment to personal growth, Neely inspires others to stay fired up and embrace their potential. I can't wait to talk with her more about having an agile mindset and how that can bring us more joy. Neely, welcome to the show.
Hey, Whitney, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for joining and for finding the time. I know running your company and all that work, plus having 4 kids, 3 of which are triplets, your days must be packed.
Yeah, I know that you and your audience, you can all relate, but somehow we managed to get it done. And I have actually been very much looking forward to this podcast interview, just touching base with you. It's nice to be around like-minded women with high achievers and big goals.
Yes, it's so good to talk to other women who have a similar mindset so that we can bolster each other up and share tips, tricks, and hacks of how we make it work. And I think also for those who don't know, Neely and I have kids the same age. My oldest is 5, and then her triplets are 5, and both boys. Well, 3 boys for her and 1 boy for me. Yes, all the boys. And my youngest is a boy as well. So it's always good to talk about how we manage not only our own energy, but their energy. Because at 5, at least in our household, with just a 3 and a 5-year-old, it's a lot of energy management.
It really is. It really is. And I think that's one of the things that they don't prepare you for enough, I think, when you're expecting a child, is all the years of energy management, all that you have looked forward to. And for me, it really started early too, I tell you, with triplets, just getting in the right mindset, even when we were told that there was more than one baby. The look on my husband's face and his chin, I had to pick it up off the floor when they said, oh, it's not just 2, there's 3. It came as a complete shock. And I think from that moment on, I've been on this quest to really just figure out mindset and how to reset that mindset again and again and again.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me because I feel like so much of our ability to find peace, to find joy, to escape overwhelm has to do with mindset.
Absolutely. And it's so funny. I think the moms on your podcast will relate. I have this story. I've sort of called it my positivity pump and dump story. I had to give it like a motherly twist because that's exactly what happened. When you're expecting, your energy level gets so low because you're gestating, right? You're growing these babies. And at about 25 weeks with triplets, that's when I felt that energy dial just start to dwindle down. And at the same time, I was searching for other women that were kind of in my same cohort, either expecting twins or triplets. And I came across a couple of triplet mom groups that were all expecting around the same time as me. And it was great because we were exchanging like, what kind of minivan are you going to get? It has to hold 4 car seats, you know? What kind of protein are you eating? Because we have to eat 200 grams a day. You know, these kinds of real practical questions exchanged amongst other triplet expecting moms were great. But what I realized slowly is after that 25-week time, my energy started to dip. And that's when, occasionally someone in the group would show up with a request for support. Basically, it's a high-risk pregnancy. And unfortunately, some of those risks started showing up, like the statistics and the numbers. There were some women that were going through some very difficult trials during the triplet pregnancy because, they're all in there, they're all kind of doing their thing. And if one is struggling, it could put the others at risk. And there's just a lot of complexity. And what I found was I was going in there as support, but what was eating away at me was I was getting taken away by these stories and all of the what ifs. What if that happened to me? And then my mind would just go down these really kind of horrible rabbit holes out of love and compassion. But I realized that I needed to kind of step away from the keyboard, so to speak. I still showed up occasionally, but I had to kind of turn off the stories of what everyone else was going through and focus on my journey and my triplets, because I realized that even though I was having all of the protein, all of the supplements, all the vitamins, you're doing all the things that the doctors tell you this is the best way to, give your kids the best chance of survival and making it, to the survival marker, so to speak. The one thing that they didn't touch on, but that I realized in that instant, was that I needed to feed them more positive thoughts. Like I literally needed to feed them energetically a more positive environment, not an environment of worry or what ifs. I couldn't go there because I had this little bit of energy just as it was. And I couldn't be spending that energy on worry and depression and things that weren't frankly part of our journey. And so I call it this pump and dump story because I literally was pumping up my positive thoughts and positive inputs and dumping the negative. And a lot of those things that are available to you when you're not expecting a baby weren't available to me. Like I was sitting in a chair, pretty much on bed rest, but really it was a recliner for the good last portion of the pregnancy. And so I couldn't get up and walk around the block. I couldn't turn on some dance music and just start to, shake out the bad juju. I had to literally sit with my mind and pump up the positive and dump the negative. And that, I think, sent me on this trajectory. I've always had an optimistic, hopeful kind of baseline. But in that instant, I realized that sometimes there are negative influences that don't even mean to be negative. It could be a well-minded relative or friend, but that's just bringing you these stories about, this happened and watch out for that, and it's like, I don't need that negativity right now. And so it's this delicate dance of really being able to know your own mind and be confident that your journey is meant to be your journey. And, how can you positively influence it along the way?
Yeah, I think that's so important. And just the idea of, our mental and our physical energy, they're attached, and making sure that we are caring for ourselves as much as we're caring for others.
Yes.
I think when you're pregnant, it's the first start of realizing how much you can truly care, because the way you care for your baby, right? I never knew I had that in me until I had my first son, and even being pregnant with him, just the love and the fierceness of protection, right? That you're willing to do to step out of yourself and take steps that maybe previously you didn't know you had the strength or the courage to take. And one of those is walking away from situations that might be negative. Your story really resonates with me in a very similar but different way, right? Because I didn't have twins, or I didn't have multiples, but when I was pregnant with my second son, it was during the pandemic. I had him in May of 2020. And so when I was pregnant with him, the pandemic had started, and it was George Floyd, and there was just a lot going on. And I said to my husband, I can't watch the news. Normally I would probably have been very involved with my own thoughts on George Floyd and everything that was happening in the Black Lives Matter movement. But I just was I can't participate in any of this because it's all impacting me in a really bad way. And someone said something to me that was really interesting, and it helped me. It helped me to take control and ownership of my mindset and my thoughts. And it was if you close your eyes and imagine your thoughts and your the inside of your brain as a place, right? Is it a dark alley, or is it an open field? Is it filled with dark clouds and litter? Or is it filled with open skies and sunshine? Whatever it's filled with, you have the choice. You are actually creating that. And so do your best to make that open fields and sunshine be the place of your mind, right? And whatever you see that's showing up in your mind as litter, get rid of it. Right?
Yeah.
Just get rid of it. And I don't know, that did help me, but it's so, I think, true. This idea that our mental energy, our physical energy, they are attached, and we have to take ownership of doing what we need to so that we can be our best for ourselves, for our children, our future children, in your case, our families, right? And the people who depend on us.
And you nailed it. It is about choice at the end of the day. It's not about, I'm naturally a positive person, or I'm naturally, more of a worrier. That's not at the root. The root is choice. And once you realize that you always can have that power back, that power to choose, that's when your growth and your life change exponentially on a faster and faster spiral up. Once you realize that you always have a choice, always. And I love that you brought up that timeline of 2020, because I think what we're seeing now, 4 years later, is that people are still almost in this phase of still waiting for it to go back to the way it was. You're going to return to that life pre-2020, or that you're going to go back to the way you were before you had babies, and that your goals and your mission wouldn't change. It's really come to the forefront now that this rapid change is here to stay. And it's not ever going to go back. It's only going to increase. And so I still see that kind of in leadership, in corporate. I see it in people's personal lives, that there's those that are in defense mode, waiting to react, to go back to the way it was, or waiting for the chaos to subside, and those that are actually playing offense and going forth and choosing to make their own path and make the changes they need to do to accelerate anyway, despite the change. And so it's really kind of this interesting time. And I think that, to be honest with you, I was so excited to talk with you today. I think that working moms really are the backbone and the leaders in this change, because we've seen this for a while now, right? Like, we've seen how broken it was. I know you and your story, it became very apparent. Something has to give here, where you can't have this work-life balance. Like, there's no such thing. And so I think that at the crux of it all is this power to choose and to go for it on offense, despite the change and uncertainty, because it's here to stay.
Yes, 100%. The only caveat I will say, and this is not really a caveat, it's just I saw this hilarious meme today, which was like, are we back in 2020? 49ers and Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. It's an election year. It's like
it's a leap year.
It's a leap year.
It's all the things. That's like, wait a second. Did we just time warp?
I was like, we're not. This is not going to replay again.
No, heavens no.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what's so funny, is that certain things, it'll make you stop and think for a minute.
Mm-hmm. And in some ways, like, maybe what it did to me, the way that hit me, was thinking about, am I making the same choices or choices in the same way as I was in 2020?
Mm-hmm.
And, my thought was hopefully not, right? Am I making the same decisions? Hopefully I've grown and evolved in the 4 years, right? And my life has moved with the times, because we're not where we were in 2020. But it's a funny cyclical thing happening right now with those big events.
Yeah.
Talking about ownership and mindset, though, the real question that I wanted to ask, or kind of comment I wanted to make, is what you just shared, really about kind of defensive versus offensive, not making changes, waiting for things to happen, and how that might apply to having an agile mindset.
Yeah, we're going, like, on the professional side and certainly on the personal side too. It's becoming critical that you adopt a agile mindset. And for those that aren't familiar with agile, I think closely akin to growth mindset. There's a couple of nuances, but it really is, like I said, being ready to respond instead of waiting to react, because we are going from the pace of old. Certain systems are broken. The old establishment is defunct, whether they know it or not. Organizations that can't pivot into this creating environments where people thrive are going to fail. And we have to take it upon ourselves. It's more about individual leadership now more than ever. It does not matter what your title is. It matters what you are coming to the table with, and is it the right mindset to accelerate growth? And I think it applies both personally and professionally. So there's this aspect of continuously learning, because in the old way, you would predict something and plan it all out. You could look back and have a 3 to 5 year goal and just make plans to start chipping away at the 3 to 5 year plans, because you could look historically at data or what has worked before. And that's exactly what a lot of these large corporations do, is they just run that same playbook. Well, now you throw in volatility, uncertainty, rapid change, the dynamics left and right, and these old establishments are breaking down. They're on their heels. They're playing defense. And you have to go from a predict and plan mode to a sense and respond. So it's about being more agile in a sense that you are continuously learning and continuously integrating the lessons. And I think, like I said before, moms are at the forefront of this, because we are always in that agile mindset when you are with your kids. You don't know what's going to happen. Like, there is craziness and volatility. I mean, speaking as someone who has a mini circus running around them all the time, you may have like the most rose-colored day planned out, and we're going to go here and there, but then little Johnny, slips into a puddle, has a mental breakdown, didn't get enough snacks, and then like everything is, you're playing it by ear. So I feel that moms are really in a position to embrace this opportunity, and not just embrace the opportunity, but to lead into the uncertain times.
Yes, I fully agree with that. And one of the things that came to my mind when you were saying that is, as moms, we have to nonstop manage risk, innovate, and communicate.
Yep.
And whether you were doing that on a regular basis before you had kids or not, once you have kids, you are doing it and you're upping the level, because ultimately the stakes are high. I mean, we're talking about small lives here. We're not talking about, even your like $100,000, $1 million project. We are talking about small lives that we are constantly doing risk mitigation for and innovating to solve problems and needing to communicate. And so I think what you're saying, it really resonates for me. One of the things that jumped to my mind too when you were talking is, about this ownership and how corporations, you can't really have a 3 or 5 year plan. It's very difficult in today's world. And I feel like, and maybe you can share your thoughts on this, I feel like that's the same with career ownership. Like historically, if you're like me and you came up in the 80s, if you came up like the 70s, 80s, the idea was like, okay, you're going to work and here's the career path that you're going to have. And you're going to go from analyst to manager, manager to senior manager to director. And here's this path that you take. And today's world just doesn't function like that, right? And you really have to be responsible for owning your career and not being responsive, but instead being kind of, like you said, prepared, right? And reacting to what comes. Does that resonate for you?
Absolutely. Yes, I am very passionate about this topic because I think at the root of that is not just this old paradigm of like, follow this proven path and you'll climb the ladder. It is actually that the old paradigm is kind of stuck in tying your worth to your performance. And as women and as mothers, we know, I think intrinsically, that our worth is not tied to our performance. We know that we are here to powerfully, raise the next generation. And that in and of itself is worthiness, right? Like worthy, you were given the child you were given for a reason because you are the perfect mom for that child. And in that professional sphere, not only is there not this predict and plan rung by rung ladder to climb, we know intrinsically that your worth is not tied to your performance. And so if you realize that, you have more confidence in the value that you bring, you'll be unshaken when, some manager just doesn't get you, or some 9-box, annual review scorecard doesn't come out the way that you think it should be. The SMART goals don't get done in exactly the way the SMART goal should have, or a title or promotion doesn't happen in the timeline. It's understanding that your worth is not for others to dictate. It's not for some establishment to dictate. It's not for your title or your career, your ladder climbing to dictate. So once you realize that your worth and your value is something that you hold and you take with you, it opens up. I like that visual of having that open field to look and be able to go and pivot to where it aligns the best with not only what you bring to the table, but what you want out of your life at that point in time. Because I know that you and I both have talked about, we have different seasons of life that we kind of go in and out of. And there's some times in your career that you're all about the hustle and grind. Like you want to get after it. You're in that summer season. You're like, yes, ma'am, let's do this. And then other times you need a winter season to just integrate all the changes and everything that you've gone through. I know that I definitely felt that winter season after having my daughter. And then again with triplets, you're reassessing where you want to go and where you want to be. But if you know that you always have that intrinsic value, it doesn't matter what someone else's corporate ladder looks like.
Yes, that's a word. That's a word and everybody needs to hear it, right? You are worthy. You're worthy just because you are here, right? And making decisions about your career based on someone else telling you your worth is X, Y, and Z because of where you show up in a 9-box is not a way to live your life if you want joy, right? You can live your life that way, but I don't know how much joy you're going to find if that's where you're tying up all your worth. And I think the other thing that you said that hit me too is, you are the perfect mom for your child, right? You were given this child for a reason and you are the perfect mother for your child. Does that mean you're a perfect person? No, because none of us are. But is that a perfect fit, a perfect match? Yes, it is, right? Yeah. And that's, and I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. And it's in the evolution, right? It's in the day-to-day. It's in the energy management. It's in the learning process. Like I said, the agile environment that you're creating for your child to learn. What's so beautiful about it is that we are, as individuals, I think, all compelled to reach our full potential. And what we're trying to do as moms is not only reach our full potential, but also bring our little ones along for the journey and show them what it looks like to go after things, to go after your dreams, big goals, and to almost, give them a deliberately developmental environment that they can then go realize their full potential too. So it's multi-layered, and there's so much to it. But at the end of the day, I still go back to that choice.
Right.
It is your choice.
Yes, you get to make that choice. And I will say I don't know, for some reason, the thing that's been on my heart for like the last 3 months is just saying it out loud to folks. Like, you have a choice. And if you're in a job you don't like and it's a bad job, you still have a choice. You can leave. Maybe you can't leave today, but you can create your plan and you can leave in the next 6 months, right? So just know that you have that choice. The company does not own you. We don't live in those times anymore. So you really, you have a choice, and you might not be able to make that choice to take action today, but you can prepare to take that action and then make your choice. I don't know why this is something I've been sharing a lot. Before we go, I wanted to ask you about the workshops that you hold, and what are some of the kind of biggest takeaways or lessons that people can apply at work with their teams or at home, in their life, to find more joy, to really start to live more in their purpose, right? And become their best and highest self.
Yeah, this is all still developing and evolving. So it's like a really great time to be gathering with people that are of this mindset, because like I said, you can tell who is still sitting on the back of their heels waiting for the chaos to pass them over, almost sticking their head in the sand, and then who is actually taking advantage of this time to grow personally and professionally. And so our training events right now, I've been mostly working with established corporate teams, but I have started to curate a small group of individuals, it's men and women, but just feel called for more and want to grow personally and professionally. And so the trainings will be virtual. I have not kicked this group off. And in the spirit of Agile, I wouldn't even say there's an agenda planned, because part of what we're doing is finding out where your personal edges are, what opportunities you have to grow and push your personal edges. And one of the things that we have is that there are kind of established from psychology different levels of leadership and awareness of like group dynamics, for example, relationships, and how as you grow in your leadership, you come to realize that your job isn't just to dictate, and manage people. It's more about creating a relationship that is empowered and teams that trust each other and are empowered to go and deliver value. And so the trainings really are about more leadership development, but all of those things kind of apply to your personal life as well. Sensing and responding when there may be something else at play, something else I'm missing here, and it's just being able to effectively pause and have those moments of reflections like you would in a retrospective. It's giving yourself permission to have those.
And can you share what a retrospective is for those who don't actually operate in Agile?
Yes, absolutely. I think even in corporations that don't consider themselves Agile, usually after a big project's done, there's a big meeting and everyone gets together and says, how did we do? How did it go? In companies that are more Agile in their working processes, retrospectives happen more frequently because it's a matter of rapid learning and innovation. And so it's really kind of applying that feedback loop and that retrospective to your own life as well. And really, like, the growth doesn't happen in a vacuum, in a solo silo. You have to be engaged with other people if you really want to grow through your leadership and your greatness.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think for most things in life, for us to move forward quickly, we have to involve other people.
Yeah, because they'll bring to light things that you otherwise were missing. They have context or perspectives that you weren't looking at it that way. And it might be, the linchpin that moves the needle forward. It's very, very important, especially when we're talking about anything personal growth related, is having those moments of retrospection.
Yes, retrospection. I feel like that's going to be the hashtag for this talk, hashtag retrospection. Before we go, I have two last questions. The first is, how do you, Neely Neal, define success?
I think success is holding a vision that aligns to you and not knowing the path and not knowing the steps, but walking in faith toward that highest goal, that highest vision, what I would call a calling on your life. And success to me is just staying in alignment with it. It doesn't necessarily mean you're ever going to reach it, because I think once you do reach milestone after milestone, we're presented with another step. There's more for you. There's more inside of you. So for me, it's being able to really hold that vision, even when the swirling winds or storms are happening, to walk in faith, even if others can't see that end goal. Success is being able to really strongly hold a vision and make just the next right move in alignment with that calling on your life.
I think that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And then the last question is, where can people find you?
Oh, thanks so much. I am so excited to be a fellow podcaster. You can find me at The Neely Neal Show. It's being rebranded as Up with Neely Neal. So very shortly, you'll find all things up, an upward trajectory on the podcast. But I also have a text list. I know we've only just met, you and your listeners, but I would love to get on that text level with you. That is really my only community that I am bringing these free trainings to, is my text list. And so that number is 480-418-7156. You can text me anything. It really does come right to my phone. It's not like a strange AI bot service or anything. I'll give you the link to that too, if we want to add that to the show notes. But I'm very passionate about curating the right group of like-minded individuals for these kinds of mindset trainings. And the text list is really the best way to get involved if that interests you. But yeah, I'm looking forward to just another year of growth for sure.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining the show. You heard it. The text goes to her phone. So if you want more of Neely, you can literally text her. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Whitney.
That's all we've got for this episode of the Savvy Working Mom podcast. One thing that would really help both us and other potential listeners is for you to rate this show and leave a comment on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen in. Also, make sure to link up with us at thesavvyworkingmom.com and on Instagram at thesavvyworkingmom. And please just share this podcast with any other mama who you think might enjoy or benefit from it. Until next time, remember, with intentional and daily action, you can live your best days now and forever.